2011 was a terrible year for Williams. They could only muster 5 points and struggled for the majority of the season. For 2011, a year Williams will definitely want to forget.
Yeah, and you can't really point to anything that says what went wrong. You know, Sam Michael jumped ship. Maybe he could see the way it was going. You know, it wasn't what he wanted to see development-wise. He knew it wasn't going to change, and he would probably get the blame. But yeah, it's a crying shame with a team like that. It reminds me of the original Lotus back in the 90s. You know, when there was or the 80s as well. They were a great team. Once Senna left, you know, that was kind of it. They were, and Mansell, I suppose, but they both went down, and that was it. Yeah, they were a great team, and they were falling down the grid. I'm hoping Williams somehow will pull themselves together soon, because as far as I know, Frank Williams and Patrick Head aren't more likely to get more involved, and I mean, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I think they're heading towards retirement themselves, rather than actually getting more involved with the team and trying to drag it back up to where it should be. So what is the future of that team? They need to get some people that, you know, obviously they can trade on the name. Hopefully they can get some people that believe in Williams as much as anyone else does. But it would be a shame for Frank and Patrick to retire. I think Patrick's already moved away from the racing division, and see the team just fade away like Lotus did in the 90s. Maybe it'll have a controversy in the 2030s. It'll come back and someone will fight over the name. But, you know, I'm very sad about Williams. Yeah, it's a team that is underperforming, consider its legacy. I mean, they were up there with McLaren and Ferraris in victories at one point. In the 90s, they were fighting for who had the most victories, but then they just sort of trickled back, and it was a shame. So yeah, I'm hoping that what can be done for Williams. I don't know. I don't have the answers here. You know, they can work it out themselves. But I'm really, I'm not glorying in their back of the grid adventures at the moment. I wish they were further up.
Well, we know Pastor Maldonado will be with the team next year,
yeah.
And this 2011 was his rookie year. How would you reflect on it?
Not great. You know, so it did crash a bit. He, you know, you should think you could learn with someone Rubens next door. You could learn from him and see what to do. You know, he's got so much experience. Just, you know, try and get in with him and try and learn what's great, what to do, what not to do. But I don't think they made the right decision taking him over Hulkenberg last year. I don't know if he's going to be around next year, so I think that'll be the final. That'll be his final chance with that team. You don't get much chance with Williams. It'll be next year or nothing. So he's really got to up his game, I think. Otherwise, that'll be it. So yeah, get on with it, Pastor. Have a good off season and come back in 2012 a stronger driver.
And at the minute, it does look like more and more likely that Rubens Barrichello's not going to be.
Yeah, I mean,
Williams.
We could do a great retirement speech now and say how great a career he has, and then he'll suddenly turn up next year and get a drive. But at the moment, it does look like Williams don't seem to want to, you know, benefit from his experience, and they think he's past it now. Because Schumacher went away and came back, that makes Barrichello the longest active driver, doesn't it? So yeah, with the most amount of races. Yeah.
Is it time for him to hang up his boots?
He doesn't want to. He's got such passion and enthusiasm. But sometimes you have to sit down with him and say, look, you know, it's not happening. I understand he didn't want to see turn Brazil into his retirement day, but maybe it's better to just just retire quietly in the off season, having a big song and dance about it like Damon Hill did, which had like a 6-month farewell when, you know, you can tell he didn't want to do it anymore. But yeah, so I don't know. I think he's popular. But is that enough? He's popular, he's a fan favourite, but is that enough to justify him a driver? Is he quick enough? If he got a Brawn sort of situation again, if Williams pulled a Brawn, let's say, would he still be good enough to win races? I don't see why not. But has he had his time now? He's had two teammates to champions, if you know what I mean. He was a Schumacher era and the Brawn era. He's won races in both eras. He should count himself lucky. A lot of people haven't. So maybe this is the end of Rubens, and I'll be sad to see him go. But if he turns up next year, I'm sitting on the fence. I'm doing a David Coulthard. I'm sitting on the fence on this. But if he turns up next year, I'll also be happy to see him, especially if he went to a team like HRT or Virgin or something like that and gave him his experience, because I think they would desperately need it. You know, Williams as well probably needs experience. Well, there's nothing you can really teach Williams, but something you can teach Virgin and HRT how Formula 1 works, I think. So maybe this is the end of Rubens, as I say. So I will be sad to see him go if it is the end. I'm leaving that clause.
Yeah. Marks out of 10 for Williams?
No, I am going low. This is, I'd say 3, you know. I'd say 3 or maybe 3.5, 4 at the most. No, I'm going to stick with 3 because they have such a legacy and they've underperformed compared to what they expect. They expect to win. Frank Williams only here to win. He's not here to train other drivers or be a second team to a manufacturer. They've had their issues. Yes, they hired for the Toyota engine. They hired a Japanese driver. Yes, they went through that stage, didn't work well, and all that. But they are a racing team. They exist solely to go racing. They don't have sports cars on the offing, or they don't have an energy drink to push. They are just a racing team, and it's to see a racing team not race very well is depressing in my book, because I grew up with Williams and the Mansell era and the Hill era and all that. So please let's hope that the shoots of recovery, I found the metaphor, the shoots of recovery are sprouting soon, and Williams have a much better off season in 2012.
Okay, Toro Rosso had a strong second half to the season and were just pipped to 7th in the Constructors by Sauber, and the Italian team have also announced Daniel Ricciardo and John Eric-Vergne as their driver line for 2012. And I guess it's no surprise that Ricciardo is going to be driving Toro Rosso, but to actually get rid of both Sebastian Vettel and Jaime Alguersuari, and they've had decent seasons as well. It's a bit harsh, isn't it, to get rid of both of them?
Does that mean there's a third tier now, in that Red Bull will buy into one of the newer teams before putting them in Toro Rosso? Normally GP2 is good enough, and then Toro Rosso, but now you've got to do a year or a bit of a year in third tier team, if we're going to call them that. I don't like that sort of idea, because they could easily jump out, but you know what I mean, sort of one the back of the grid teams, the newer teams, and then jump into a Toro Rosso, and then if you're good enough, jump into Mr. Mark Webber's keeping the seat warm for you. I call him Old Man Webber the Seat Warmer. It's not the greatest nickname, Seat Warmer Webber, but he's got experience. He could be the next Seabass, win a race in a Toro Rosso, and that promotes you to instantly to a Red Bull drive for the main team. Or he could be the new other Seabass, Sebastian Bourdais, do very badly in Toro Rosso and will kick you out halfway through the year. It's all in his hands now. He's it could be another Scott Speed, as I say. It could be another Sebastian Vettel. For every Sebastian Vettel, there's going to be about 4 Scott Speeds, Sebastian Bourdais, and all that going through. It's all up to him now, really. And as I say, you can't really tell much based on his performance this year, but it's now or never in the Toro Rosso in 2012.
What about your thoughts on Bohemian Alguersuari?
Not great though. I could see the logic in getting rid of them, because they didn't do they didn't do anything to make you think they're the future. They didn't do anything to make you think, that was a great drive. They did a couple of overtakes that I'd stick in my head, which is always good for me.
There were times where they did put some strong performances though, didn't they?
Well, what's strong when it's a Toro Rosso? You've got... I know they're not...
Obviously, obviously Red Bull, Ferrari, McLaren, they're going to finish in the top 6, but there were times where, Alguersuari ended up going out in Q1, yet he was able to finish in the points.
That's the thing, he went out in Q1 though. Did they ever make the top 10? Not really. Did they ever get into the top 10 in the points? Yeah, but did they ever get more than 9th? And that was it due to attrition? I haven't gone through it. As I say, I don't really pay attention to the Toro Rosso of the world, because I see them as just a driver development programme, really. They're not really a racing team as much as someone like Williams would be. They're just there to get experience and filter out, the Vettels from the Bourdais. That's a Formula 1 metaphor you can use now. Of course, yeah. So it's filter out the Vettels from the Bourdais. That's what we've been doing on this podcast as well. But Paul Seabass, Sebastian Bourdais, should I say? He's over in America. He's having a great time. It's fine. But there's a couple of times you thought, why were they so slow? A couple of times they were in the points, but as I say, there was no wet race victories, there was no wet race leadings of races or anything that makes you think they're the future. You could tell when, even back then, I know it's a bit of always going back to Vettel, but you could tell Vettel was something special when he was in Toro Rosso. You just could. And Bourdais just he suffered for that in comparison, and so you could tell, you can sort of tell, di Resta's got something now. Maybe he won't be a champion, but he'll probably be the next Coulthard at least. Win a few races, be a championship contender. You can tell sort of what drivers. Yes, it all depends on who's got the right backing, but you can also tell by the performance on track who's going to be the future and who isn't. Everyone could say even when Schumacher was in sports cars, he was going to be the next champion of Formula 1. Everyone just knows. And do you get that impression from your Buemis, really? Do you have to be called Sebastian to race for Toro Rosso for a start? But do you get that?
I have to be brutally honest with you. I think it was harsh getting rid of both Bohemian and Alguersuari, because I actually thought they did well. But obviously, the Red Bull hierarchy know best. Yeah,
I don't know if they've got them off the Red Bull driver program. They may turn up in America. They may turn up in DTM. I know they sponsor a car there. I don't know if they actually run a team. It's not the end of the road for them. I'm sure they'll still be looked after, but they've had their time. You know, and if they do well, they maybe get another chance. I don't think this is the complete end people think it is. But yes, it was a bit harsh the way it was dealt with. As far as I know, they found out on Tuesday morning of the day of the announcement, and Tuesday afternoon they announced the 2 new drivers. So it was like, oh, thanks. They've had 2 years. They didn't shine. Yes, it was harsh, but that's Formula 1.
Okay. Marks out 10 for Toro Rosso?
Not great. As I said, there's nothing that makes me think, wow, they were amazing. Wow, what a great race they did. You know, they're just as I say, the driver development program for Red Bull. They should make a reality TV show out of it, actually. This year's Outcrop, you're fired. Sorry, everyone in Toro Rosso. But no,
I don't think Alxar and Duhamel like you for that.
No. Well, they're too late now. Doesn't matter. Let me let you know where they are. They're about a 4.
A 4?
Yeah, a 4.5 at the best.
Okay, well, we'll give them a 7, but anyway.
You're allowed to give yours, you know, be more opinionated. Okay. Not just a question.
I think we'll move on now. Sauber's Kamui Kobayashi.
The trouble is, I don't know who you've got a secret connection with. I might just be...
I haven't got any secret connections.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, anyway, Sauber's Kamui Kobayashi finished 9th in Brazil, which meant that Sauber were able to finish 7th in the Constructors ahead of Toro Rosso. First half of the season went well for the Swiss-based team, but second half they faded yet again.
Yeah, see, there's some teams that I'm more sympathetic to, and some teams I'm not. I was quite harsh towards Toro Rosso, I admit it, but they've got Red Bull behind them. Okay, they're not allowed to design the car the same way anymore, but they've got the Red Bull money and that behind them. Maybe they're deliberately, you know, not challenging the main team, I get it, but when it comes to Sauber, you know, you feel they are passionate racers, so I'm more sympathetic to them. I'm biased, I admit it. You know, I'm not David Coulthard, I'll admit my bias. I'm really hurting Coulthard today. He's been on the fence, he's biased, but you know. But someone like Sauber, you know, they went through the ringers. They were a BMW manufacturer team, and then Peter Sauber had to come back and save it from. You know, these sort of stories I'm more sympathetic towards, and I do like Sauber, especially when they hire true racers like Kobayashi. They had the best year probably they can. They don't have the budget of the bigger teams. You know, they looked good in the early part of the year. They, as I say, but then they don't have the development base. That's the trouble. It's easier for a team like that to look good at Melbourne than it is at Brazil, assuming that those are the other end of the season, not when they used to be next door to each other. But you know what I mean. After the development that the main teams can do, it's not the littler teams can probably match just about at the start of the year, and then as soon as the big teams push through the development during the year, they can't sort of catch up developing and racing at the same time. That's where they fall down. But you know, I am sympathetic to Sauber. I do like, you know, the colour scheme. It looks nice. The cars always look nice. And
you love your colour schemes,
I know.
don't you?
I do like a good livery. I thought Virgin was the best livery, especially when they first came, the black and red. Black and red was always my favourite colours. There was a team in Champ Car in America that went with black and red, and they became my favourites. They weren't very good. I do like a good livery. I think it does mean a lot in capturing new fans, especially if you're young. The reason I started watching Formula 1 was because of Damon Hill's helmet, would you believe it? It stuck out to me, black and the rowing arrows.
Yeah.
And there was a couple, and the Ferrari, of course, the red Ferrari. I was like, oh, look at them. If you've got a good quality colour TV and they don't all bleed into each other, the colours, then yeah, these things stick out, you know. But when you're a kid and you're just trying to get in Formula 1, it's just the basic things that gets into it, the red of the Ferrari and the cool helmet. And when I first got into Champ Car in America, it was like the cars, they looked like 1980s Formula 1 cars. They were wide. At the time, Formula 1 cars were skinny and with grooved tyres. They were wide, slick tyres, and they looked like McLarens because they had Marlboro sponsorship. So they were white, and two of the cars were white and red. So yeah, that was little things get you into the sport. People think, oh, you should market the personalities, you market this, but no, just do cool things. Have a flame livery, you know, do little things to make you look cool, and people will follow you just for that. And okay, getting back on the point, sorry. Yeah, Kobayashi is the cool one for me. You know, he may crash a lot, okay, mainly in practice, but who doesn't? But he overtakes. He tries, and that, you know, he pulls off some great overtaking. He'll never settle for 8th. He'll try and go for 6th. You know, he'll get the maximum. And that's why I hated the Ralph Schumachers of the year. Well, they just gave up until they had the best car, and then they'd win a race. But when they had to sort of fight through the grid, they'd be like, yeah, I'll wait for the pit stops. If that doesn't go well, I'll just settle. You know, that's not the attitude I like to see. But people like the Kobayashis of the world try, and they keep trying, even in a Sauber that, you know, is not great, but good, but not great. So yeah, I am more favoured. I am biased, I admit it, but I am biased towards the team that have racers' blood in them. You know, I'm a purist, and I'll be biased towards the purist teams. So yes, Sauber done the best job they can be expected to do on their budget.
let's give credit where it's due. Sergio Perez, he also had a decent year, and throughout 2011 he was able to stand pole with him, wasn't he?
You're right. You're right. Actually, he did do a good job, standing up to Kobayashi as fan favourite. I think a team favourite, and he came into the team. He's got that's a mountain to climb, but he did do well, and he outperformed and outfinished him in quite a few races. So he's done a good job, and the team's done a good job. As I say, there's no real negative apart from the fact, I do worry with their engine they become a B team for who. Yes, don't say it. You remember back in the old days, like Sauber would get out of the way for Michael Schumacher more than they would for Villeneuve or Hakkinen. That was the way it used to be. I haven't seen any evidence of that so far, so I'm as I say, there's no negatives at the moment. I'll be keeping an eye on them to make sure that doesn't happen, but I'm sure straight on as soon as they get near each other, if they're going to be lapped, they're straight on the radio, fair enough, but lap cars you don't really want in the way anyway. But they do make you smile, Sauber. Kobayashi makes me smile. And when if you ever watch the onboard feed, if you're lucky enough to get the onboard feed during races, which the BBC offer, and I think will still continue to offer, it's not getting to the whole TV thing, and of course the other broadcaster will not be named on offer, but if you ever watch a race with the onboard feed like on your laptop or vice versa, then you'll notice if it ever cut to Kobayashi, A, he's behind someone, and B, they're expecting something, so it's kind of like, oh, anticipation, and Kobayashi's going to do something, so yeah, that sort of enlivens even the dullest of races. So I'm glad they're there, I'm glad Kobayashi's there, and Sauber doing the best job they can.
Marks out of 10 for Sauber?
No, I won't go too high, but I'll say 7 out of 10. I think, very good, well done. Right. And please get a bit better next year. 2011 might have been a slow start for Force India, but they certainly came on strong in the second half of the season. They finished 6th in the constructors, only 4 points behind Lotus Renault. Paul, a decent year for Force India, and a lot of positives they can take in 2011. Yeah, as I say, I've also sympathetic to Force India. I get kind of annoyed when Martin Brundle seemed to be on the Resta family payroll. Okay, I get it. Maybe he's because it's cool. Maybe it's Coulthard. It's again Coulthard, but maybe he sees him as the younger prodigy version of him. But Paul di Resta gets a lot of attention. Okay, because he's a Scot, and fair enough. But it seems that the other drivers and the rest of Toro Rosso, I'll go back to Toro Rosso, Force India, doesn't. I don't know why. What can you do? But yeah, so to be fair, he did do a good job for his rookie season. He qualified in the top 10 a couple of times. A few times actually, quite a few times. He was, again, he's coming into a team with an established teammate, so he did do a good job. I would say he's rookie of the year, I believe, but there's not that many.
Yes, that's right.
If Formula 1 had that, which they don't, and if not that there was many others, but yeah, good for him.
Di Resta was crowned Rookie of the Year at the Autosport Awards, which is no real surprise after what he's achieved. And we've also now know that Nico Hulkenberg will be partnering Paul di Resta for Force India next year. Your thoughts on that?
It was always in the offing, wasn't it? Because he was just... Why would anyone be a third driver in a team these days when you don't really get much test sessions? They don't really run you on Friday to worry about knocking the race drivers out of the programme, their testing programme for the race weekend. So you might get a couple of practice sessions and you might get one test session. Why would you become a third driver unless you think you're getting a race drive out of it? That's been my logic of it, because you get to PR, but you must have the thought that I'm going to be part of this team. And when we get onto Renault, I thought it'd be surprising what happened with their 8 test drivers and then none of them actually got the job, but we'll get onto that in a bit. But yeah, that's Hulkenberg. His entire reputation on Formula 1 at the moment is based on one shock wet pole position, which was Brazil last year. Yes, I liked him in GP2. I have to say he did a lot of good in GP2. But in Formula 1 it really was just that pole. And then the shock. It's always the way in Formula 1. You can get a story out of it. If you do a good performance and people think, yes, you're going to be the star of next year, and then the team fire you, and then you don't get to be the star next year, people think about missed opportunities and what could have happened rather than what did. I think next year Hulkenberg has to shine because he's got such a fan base now. That team's going to be going places. I think both drivers will be eager to please. Both drivers next year will be keen to beat the other one. Good luck, Force India. I think you'll need it to control those two next year. There may be more crashes just because they're both going to be pushing it more. So I think, Force India team to watch next year.
But you have to feel sorry for Adrian Sutil because this year he had a decent year.
Yeah, it's true. He didn't get at least in the English-speaking press, he didn't get the press of Di Resta, but he did get almost, I think performances were equal to slightly better, but you'd expect someone who's got more experience to be better, and the fact that Di Resta shined so much is because he was compared to his teammate, and he wasn't a true rookie, he had DTM experience and he's a Formula 3 champion and all that. So yeah, okay. The reason why di Resta shined so much is he came up against and looked good against Sutil, but Sutil still beat him. But he didn't beat him by enough to stay. So yeah, I guess Sutil's another one who's been around and not really shined that much. He's been around various teams and blah blah blah. But where does he go now? I don't know.
Potentially Williams. Barrichello's not.
Yeah, see. It's all a money game, isn't it? Is he going to be paying for that drive? Will he be paying for that drive? But we will find out as the off-season develops, and I hate the off-season at the best of times. There's no racing, it's all politics. But I want to see the racing. I never like the off-season merry-go-round. So I think I might just go in a coma and come back in Melbourne. So yeah, that's the way Formula 1 works. It's not a kind sport. People want chances, they deserve more chances, and they don't get it.
Marks out of 10 Force India?
Force India, yeah, I'll give them a 7. Yeah, I think them and Sauber are pretty much the same in looking performance-wise, but yeah, 7 out of 10. I would give more, but I don't want, I know where we're going now, and there needs to be more room to get up there when we get to the top of the team, so I do think they've done a good job, I will say.
Okay. Well, this year was certainly an eventful one for Lotus Renault GP, although we're known as Lotus F1 from next year, with Kimi Raikkonen and Roman Grosjean as their driver lineup. 2011 started off well for the team, with Nick Heidfeld and Vitaly Petrov ending on the podium in the opening 2 races, but second half of the season a real struggle for Renault.
Yes, I think they made a mistake with Heidfeld, would you believe? That's what I said about this is the point I was making with the test drivers. Renault last year had more test drivers than anyone, if I remember. I can't name them all, but I know Senna was one of them. And then poor Robert Kubica had his accident, and suddenly they drafted in Heidfeld. Is there no point? Is not the point having so many test drivers that if something like that happens, you can come in and use one of them? Why would you have 5 people on your payroll that you don't trust to take over if an accident happens? Now, if I was Senna, I'd have been really annoyed by that. They then, in Belgium, went back on that decision and gave Senna a chance. But he was, that was Belgium. He'd lost the thread of performance. If he'd gone straight into that drive, yes, he might have been over exuberant and crashed a few times in Melbourne or something, but by the time he got to Belgium he'd have got the experience and maybe challenging with di Resta for Rookie of the Year. Okay, I don't know, it's just pure speculation, I can't say that. The fact that they had no confidence in Senna at the start of the year really hurt Senna, I think, because then he came in mid-season when everyone else was experienced, and you could tell he was trying to overperform. He had a first corner crash in his first race and all that. So I think Heidfeld was a bit of a mistake. They should have just bit the bullet and went with one of their driver program. And yes, he's not going to be great at first, but hopefully he will over the course of the year improve. But they just didn't have the chance of that, and Senna then didn't have the chance to show improvement because all he showed was the crashes and that. So I think Renault would have had a much better year if Kubica was around. They had a great start to the year. They were leading a couple of. They made a really good start in Malaysia. It sticks in my head that they did a really good. I don't think they quite led, but they were doing. Both cars went shooting forwards like the old days of Benetton. But it always was the Renault way, wasn't it? They had better starts. Yeah. So they I think they underperformed, I will say, based on the testing stuff we got. Kubica was testing. It looked very good. It looked good, but after the accident, it kind of fell apart, and they probably chose the wrong driver. I mean, Heidfeld is just the perennial average driver. He's good at development. He's good at maybe qualifying, but he's not good at being feisty and winning races. He's just there. He's just the Formula 1 version of vanilla. He's just there, and you don't think, great. But he was drafted in these situations, but I don't think they should have gone with him. Last year he was drafted in Sauber, wasn't he? So this year he's drafted in Renault. Okay, if he'd had continuity, maybe he'd done a better job, but I just don't think it was the right choice. They should have stuck with Senna, and hopefully more crashes, but the potential would have been higher than Heidfeld, who's very monotone base level. So yeah, we'll see. I didn't realise I was this anti-Renault, I'm sorry. And also the name thing, I was again, I wanted Lotus, the old Lotus, now Caterham. I thought they had the rights to the name and their claim was more. And then when other Lotus, now Renault now Lotus, started getting uppity about it, I thought, come on, this isn't racing, this is just marketing. I don't care for that. I don't want to see a lawsuit of a marketing campaign. Lotus Caterham are, it's going to confuse me, Lotus Caterham are a tiny team. If you take them to court, that's going to probably close to bankrupt them. They'll have no money for their development. And Lotus Renault, okay, they're not exactly up there with the Ferraris, but they've got more money. And I don't know why they need to come to that. Can they just have worked it out? Okay, it's all sorted itself out now, out of court, and they're all okay, blah, blah, blah. But it didn't need to come to that, and it annoyed me that it was just taking focus away from the racing team. So, yeah, I'm biased. I'm just against the team for just marketing reasons, where they don't see them as a true racing team. I don't see the thread of Alonso, I don't see that as the same team anymore. And somehow it seems to have morphed into a new marketing experience. But, oh well, they're still on the grid, and they were rumoured to have closed their doors when Renault was threatening to pull out. So I'm glad they're still around, don't get me wrong, but I think they've underperformed this year.
Okay. Well, Renault obviously now, there's Lotus F1 for next year.
Yes.
Got rid of Petrov,
Yep.
Raikkonen and Grosjean for next year. No pressure on them to deliver.
Raikkonen, as I say, this could be... He does not take well. I mean, you know how angry he got when he was doing well in McLaren and the engine would blow. They better at least build a reliable car, because I don't want any more shots of Kimi eating ice cream, because it's becoming a Formula 1 joke. I don't follow rallying, and I didn't think he, was where he wanted to be. Okay, he's Finnish, and most Finnish drivers end up rallying rather than Formula 1 anyway, but I didn't think that's what Kimi wanted. He didn't seem to do too well. I haven't got rallying friends. I don't know if anyone knows about rallying. Tell me if he did a great job, but he didn't seem to be winning rallies or finishing anywhere apart from the low ends in the top 10 and crashing. I've seen a few crashes he did. No, nice crashes. Well done, Kimi. Well done for surviving, because it scares me, rallying. And it is brave. I will say that rallying is brave. Not much of a TV spectacle because you can't film it, but it's a brave thing to do for a driver. And okay, so maybe you never know. That may have improved his skill set. You may think that driving fast on a circuit with other cars around is dangerous, but driving at 200 miles an hour through a forest of trees either side of you, that's going to install a safety margin in you at least. So I don't think there'll be many mistakes from Kimi next year. I don't think there'll be many crashes that were his fault. I think he's got a safety margin installed in now because he's used to going 100 miles an hour with trees either side or on the snow. So yeah. So next year I don't think Kimi will be winning races. I think it'll be another Schumacher. He'll be coming back, showing his hand, and people think he should be doing better than he actually will be. But in the end, he'll be doing a solid performance. Maybe that's what Renault want, Lotus want. Maybe that's what they need next year. But yeah, it's going to be a lot of a spotlight on them. Do they need that spotlight? We'll find out. I'm happy he's there, though. How many champions on the grid is that now? Six champions? Yeah, that is surely one of the most talented grids based on champions. Yeah, that is amazing. I'm happy he's back. I didn't think rallying suited him. I think he should be in Formula 1. He has obviously got talent. He's a world champion. It's just, has he picked the right team? Well, it's better Renault than Williams, which was rumoured, wasn't it?
Yes,
because
right.
If he'd been Williams, he would have done a Mansell at McLaren and just stormed off after 4 races. Williams would have been a stupid idea. Sorry to Williams, as I say, I do have respect for Williams, but he's picked a good but not great team. If they finish ahead of Mercedes next year, that'd be great. I know, and maybe he can show in the wet or something. I'm hoping there'll be something like that. So yes, go Kimi. I'll hopefully want to see him perform next year.
Marks out of 10 for Lotus Renault for this year?
I'm going to say an underperforming 5.
Okay. Okay.
What would you give them? I'm asking you.
I mean, first half season they started off well.
Yeah, that was
2
good.
podiums, two first
yeah,
two
based
races.
on the first half, you'd say 6 or 7, but then it just got dragged down by the.
Faded. And,
yeah.
there were times where they weren't even able to finish in the points for a start.
Just imagine how it would have been different if Robert was still around. It would have been much better. Imagine next year who's going to go if Robert gets better.